Good Sunday morning to all of you. This is Ann White. I am the founder of the Creating Calm Network, and we have a very special guest for you. As you know, we love to shine light on change makers, people who are doing their part to make this world, to make families, communities a better place. And so today I have CCN host with me, Alaya Frisch, and we are here with Stacey Weingarten. And Stacey, thank you so much for joining us. And your bio is amazing. You are a writer, producer, director, puppet artist. I love puppet wrangler. Professor. You teach puppetry at Pace. You're a Florida graduate, but I love that you're a dog mom. And you want to show Rue for us so we can see who Rue there?
Let's sit up. There.
There is Rue. So this is what all of the excitement is about today. It is about Rue and your story with Rue. And I found Stacey through Alaya. Alaya, good morning, and thank you for putting the radar on Stacey.
Well, actually, I have to thank Stacey's dad. I'm going to just one plug for him. He was so excited to see his daughter's production on the weekend, told me about it. I'm going, oh, gee, I got to talk to her. And, we got to, talk, and she's going, come on. And it's really, you're a very amazing young woman. I feel so old when I talk to you. So you got so much ahead of you, all your credentials. And let's go into talking about what inspired you besides, Rue? I mean, to really, write the book, just to get out there and put this whole story out there.
Well, I've always been a very big musical theater fan. I apologize, Rue's shaking her collar. I've always been a very big musical theater fan, and I kind of fell into libretto writing, so it's like my medium of choice in many ways. Mm-hmm. And when I got Rue about 2.5 years ago, my life was completely changed. I didn't realize what I was missing until I had a dog in my life every day again, because I grew up with dogs. Mm-hmm. I was close with my dogs, but I didn't have one that was like my dog that I took care of all by myself. And Rue is the first dog that I've had that's like entirely my responsibility. She's all mine. I live by myself with her. And my life has been so enriched by having her that the thought that her backstory is that she's from a Southern rescue, or rather a rescue in Brooklyn that rescues from Southern shelters that are high kill. So the thought that Rue would have been on the chopping block just because she was in an overcrowded shelter, she's such a wonderful dog that I couldn't imagine that having to be the case. And I wanted to be able to do something about it. And for me, because my medium of choice is musical theater, and for a story like Rescue Rue, I thought that it would be a good story for children. That it was something that when I was a kid, I was aware of what adopting dogs was, and when I was in high school, we did adopt a Hurricane Katrina rescue. But I grew up with mostly dogs that came from breeders, and they were wonderful dogs that came from great breeders, nice breeder, because they usually take care of their animals. But I didn't know what wonderful adoption opportunities there were. And had I known maybe when I was younger, I would have pushed for us to make that decision sooner. And so with Rescue Rue, my hope is to spread awareness for adoption for dogs and for other animals, so that they can find families, and so their families can find them, because there's definitely a dog out there for everyone.
That is so true. I'm a rescue advocate as well. And tell us the story about Rescue Rue then. What's the storyline? Because I was looking at some of the cast. You've got some great puppets in it, and because it's a puppet musical as well, right?
Yeah, it's got puppets and people. So there are some human characters that are humans, and there are some characters that are puppets, but you can see the people the whole time. So I would liken it, though it's an adult musical, to Avenue Q, for anybody who knows that, where you can actually see both at once. And it enhances kind of how much emotion you can get out of the characters, I think, at least. It's a really great way to see a story. And the plot line of Rescue Rue more or less follows all of the little tidbits that I do know about Rue. So it was limited. As far as what I know before she ended up at the shelter down in West Virginia, was that she was on the street and they picked her up. She had fleas. She was underweight because she had been out on the street for a while, and that was just about it. So I used the clues from that and also knowing that she came north through the Badass Brooklyn Animal Rescue to piece together what I knew the certain plot points would sort of be. And then using what clue, like sort of contextual clues I had, I went back and then created the rest of the story. It is a bit of a fantasy. In the story, she has a fairy dog mother that grants her a wish that eventually leads her on her journey. And then the dog mother also helps. She says she's a guide dog and has a song about being a guide dog. So along the way, she kind of secretly guides Rue and watches over Rue. But it's like in many ways, it ends up being a little bit of a series of unfortunate events for Rue, where she ends up kicked out of her first family's home, even though they're not very nice to her. She ends up getting kicked out after making the wish. Then she ends up on the street. She meets a dog that will become her best friend on the street, who's like a street older dog. They both end up in the pound. And then at the pound, Rue learns about that some dogs have the fate of being adopted and some of them disappear at the pound. So they all rally together and figure out how they can be adopted. And then all of the dogs that are left at the pound actually adopted or are put on a list for rescue like Rue is. And Rue is then sent to Brooklyn, where she eventually will meet her forever mom. And that's kind of the whole of the story. So it's a journey from being in an unloved home to being on the street to the pound, and then eventually to New York City, where she finds her like forever.
Yeah, I had noted. I noticed when I was looking at the Rescue Rue, the website, that a lot of the cast and everybody else, they're so involved. You know, I had really nice pictures of their fur children, because anybody that I have two, and has one, we just love love them so much, and to see your whole presentation and the whole, many of the cast members still involved in it. It's like the passion all incorporated in one little thing. I was going to ask you, Anna and I were talking, what is Avenue Q? I mean, I'm in New Jersey. I'm not familiar, much New York or anything.
Avenue Q is it's a fantastic musical. I'm not just saying that because I work there. I'm their puppet wrangler and wardrobe head off Broadway, which is the original production that was on Broadway, eventually transferred back off Broadway, and is currently at New World Stages in Manhattan. It's a show that is it's a Sesame Street parody it follows the story of Princeton, who is looking for his purpose. And it's a character that is very innocent and then discovers the realities of life. And it plays off of being a 20-something and discovering what being out of college means and what being in real life means, with a cast of colorful humans and puppets, that some of which the puppets are actually doubled. Multiple people play multiple characters. And it's hilarious. It's a little bit raunchy here and there. It's definitely not for little kids. But it's a lot of fun if you haven't seen it. It's actually the show that got me. I had always been a Muppet fan. I was always a fan of puppetry and puppets, but it was the show that got me into wanting to actually do puppetry, because you could see the puppeteer and you could see the puppets, and it was something that I hadn't seen like that before. And suddenly was like, oh, I think I want to learn how to do that. And then series of events eventually it led me into it.
I was wondering how you got involved with that.
Yeah, it's an award-winning show, isn't it? I think it's gotten quite a few awards.
Yes, it won the year that it was actually a really intense year for the Tony Awards. In 2004, it was against Wicked, so it was like the Juggernaut show versus Avenue Q was kind of how they painted the Tony Awards that year, and Avenue Q ended up taking home the Triple Crown, so to speak, for book, for music, and then also for Best Musical. And they had other nominations as well, but they took home like the top three, and they won a lot of awards that year.
Are you in summer production now of Rescue Rue, or?
Yes, we're going to be doing the New York Musical Theater Festival, which is a really exciting. It's kind of the top tier musical festival that there is anywhere, especially if you're in New York City. It's got the cream of the crop of a lot of new musicals that are in development in various stages. Unlike the festival we did in April, it's not child specific. It's not a family festival, but there are some family shows that are offered every year, depending on who applies. And this year, we're actually the only show that will be for our angels, which is going to be really exciting.
So exciting, yeah.
That's it. And you, when you wrote it, is it written exactly as a screenplay, or is there a book, Rescue Rue, as well?
Funny you should say. There isn't a book yet, because usually with a musical, when you say someone is the book writer, it means they wrote the book part of the musical, which is the libretto or the text, and helps shape the entire show more or less. And depending on the relationship with the book writer and the lyricist, or the book writer and the composer, etc. Usually they have a hand in everything, but ultimately they're responsible for dialogue and making sure that the story arcs are complete and such, and all of that sort of stuff. So for Rescue Rue, I say I'm the book writer, and I am very aware that I need to write an actual children's book that is Rescue Rue. And I do plan on doing it. It just hasn't happened yet because my medium of choice usually is musical theater.
Right, because one of the things I love is getting the message out about rescue, and Rescue Rue does that so well. So either that, or take your play on the road.
I mean, from your lips to God's ears, we're hoping that we would love to get it out and about, and that's kind of the goal for us of doing the New York Musical Theater Festival, was to spread awareness of the show and try and get the right people to come see it, so that we can hopefully give it more of a life, whether through licensing or through a tour or something, just because it's a fun show. We didn't really know what we had when we did the New York Children's Theater Festival, just because it was the first time we were ever doing the show, and it was very well received, and we could see that we had something. So NYMF came up as an opportunity out of doing the previous festival. Sorry, Rue's bothering me now. I know, Rue.
Oh, she hears you mention your name. She thinks you must be wanting her.
Yeah, because I know when we were promoting the show, we were not, since you're pretty much in the tri-state area, of influence, we were trying to get it on rescue groups,
Yes.
to this, push this out instead of always all these really sad stories. This is really nice. This is young.
Well,
Specific, they can really relate to what you're doing instead of seeing all these sad pictures and kill events, and which are very important groups, but they're so sad, so really like your approach in it.
Thank you. Well, it's the funny thing is, when we were writing the show, because I'm working with a composing team, Kate Steinberg and Joshua Zecher-Ross, and when we were trying to figure out what the finale moments of the show would be, I was browsing through the Badass Brooklyn Animal Rescue's Facebook page, and I realized that they have an album of photos that they don't call happy endings, where the dogs have been adopted and it's them with their new families, and they call it happy beginnings. So I was like, oh, that's it. That's what our show is driving towards. The point is that Rue wishes for a happy ending, and then in the end she realizes that she really wanted a happy new beginning with a new family. So it's taking that, usually with rescues and with rescue groups, everyone has seen the ASPCA commercials that are very sad on TV. And it's terrible that there are these dogs that need help. But the flip side of it is that there is what comes next when the dogs are adopted, and it's that they're really wonderful dogs. They're not scared and neglected, and you adopt a dog that then blossoms. With Rue, her personality, she was wonderful when I adopted her. She was very calm, very quiet. She still is very calm and quiet sometimes, but she blossomed completely within a few months. I was shocked at how well she actually took to life in New York, having been from the South and the area of Midtown. And she, within about a month and a half, was able to walk around on my block and in my neighborhood. I at first took her more towards like the West Side Highway just in case. I used to clamor to get into like every stoop, every doorway, because I assumed that was because when she was on the street, that was how she protected herself.
The safety, yeah.
But now but within about a month, she knew that she didn't have to do that anymore. And so she wouldn't try and get into all the stores. She wouldn't try and get into all the stoops. She would just walk around the block and then knew that she was coming home, which is really great.
And that's one of the beauties, is watching them bloom and continue to trust and to love. And it's just beautiful. What's her breed? It looks like she's got a couple different things. Have you figured it out? That's always the other fun thing with rescue dogs, is figuring it out.
They said I had heard of this breed before, but had never any design. Now I would look for this breed if I could. She's a Chiweenie, supposedly, which is a Chihuahua Dachshund mix. And they don't know for sure because, like I said, they don't know her history before she was brought to the shelter down south. But looking at the pictures of other Chiweenies, it's very accurate. I can tell that it was something that they got right. But to me, that's the thing that's so crazy is if she is fully Chiweenie, let's say, she's technically what people would call a designer dog. She's half one, half the other, that people would go to like a pet store to buy. And that if she was with a family, that some family lost her and didn't do everything they could to find her again, to me is so heartbreaking because I would never stop looking. So she had no collar, no tags, no chip, which I understand is sometimes a money thing. You can't afford to get a chip, but like she didn't have anything on her, and no one came to find her. So she's just such a wonderful little dog. I can't imagine. I couldn't imagine. Oh, bless me, she just sneezed. I couldn't imagine.
Must be true.
Yeah, I can't imagine losing her and then not doing everything you could to look because she's so wonderful. Hi, you coming up?
She wants to be totally involved.
Yeah, exactly. She comes to rehearsals usually, and she actually came to all of our performances at the New York Children's Theater Festival. She was at every performance and was more well behaved than most of the children.
Oh, that's great.
Is she good with children? Were the children able to come up and meet the star, in the sense I would call her the star?
After. And which was also really great, seeing kids go, oh, we made an announcement before the show saying there was a real Rue, but like getting to see her at the end of the show like was even more special, just because then they could go, oh, that is a real Rue. You didn't just say it was based on a true story. There's the dog. I can see the dog, and she's friendly. You can pet her. Like she's really great. She's just really great.
Yeah, she probably has her own personality magnetism. Mm-hmm. So you might be actually secondary, in the whole production here.
I used to, when I first got her, and it's the same everywhere I go, when I take her to work, depending where I'm working, if I'm allowed to bring her with me, I will bring her with me sometimes or all the time. And when I very first got her, I was working at the Jim Henson Company. And the way that they're set up, there's like a long row of desks, and I would come and I was actually filling in for someone that was towards the reception area. So I would come in, I'd let her go, and everyone would be like, Rue, oh, we're so glad to see you. And then they'd be like, oh, hi, Stacey. And then if there were days that I didn't bring Rue, they would ask if Rue was coming, which happens. But it's fine.
How did you get her name, Stacey? How did you pick Rue for her name?
Her name? Actually, it was a long, drawn-out process because I got her. I was in the market for a dog, more casually. I was looking on Pet Finder every so often. I'd been out of school for a little while, and I knew I did eventually want a dog, but I wasn't sure when would be the right time. So I was casually looking. She popped up. Within a week of there was an adoption event in Brooklyn. Banast usually does adoption events in Brooklyn at a couple of different stores. So I went, I'm just going to go look. And I was convinced that she would probably already have interest on her because she's small and cute, and we're in New York City, so like small dogs usually go faster. So it happened to be that things fell through. Within a week of me visiting her, I had her in my home. which I didn't. It was a really fast process. And when at first I was like, oh, I think I like the name Sophie. I was trying to figure out what names to do, and I decided on Sophie. And then I realized that almost every dog is named Sophie or Sophia. It's a very popular name. Not that that matters, but I was like, maybe there's something else that I can think of that if I call her name at the dog park, not every dog will come. So, and she was also, when I got her, she was named Cookie. When they had her down south, they gave her the name Cookie.
Yeah.
They knew could not say, because of our family dogs, if you say Cookie, they really do all come running. So I was afraid that I'd have a dog that would never come for her name. She would just come to get a cookie every time. And she didn't really know the name, so I thought it was okay. And I ended up settling on Rue after like bouncing some different things back and forth for a few different reasons. First off, I liked that it was French, that it means street, because she's a dog from the street.
Ah, there you go. Okay.
But the actual like choice of where the name came from, which I should probably be embarrassed to say, is from the Hunger Games.
Oh.
Because there's a character named Rue that they describe in a way that reminded me of Rue, where she's very observant, she's small, you shouldn't count her out, and she's sort of becomes the sidekick of the lead character in many ways. But the description she has sparkling eyes. That it's just to me the description fit very well. And it was like an out of nowhere I went, what was that character called? And I went back.
And it goes great with Rescue Rue.
Yeah, it worked out very well. Rue rhymes all things.
Yeah. Rescue Sophie might not have worked as well.
No. I've thought about that recently. I probably would have had to been Saving Sophie. And it would have had the same ring. Yeah. And Rue really does rhyme with everything. So it was a good match.
Oh, it's a perfect name for her, it is. Elia and I were chatting as we were preparing for the show, and what is Chinese Mother, Jewish Daughter? Is that the umbrella that's also producing Rescue Rue?
Yeah, it is. It's my, for many writers that are, especially on the younger side, or nowadays, just given what the temperature of the world is in entertainment, I do a lot of self-producing, at least as of right now. My goal someday, I would love to be able to like even just invest in a piece and not have to do the day-to-day work. But I have learned how to do the day-to-day work. So Chinese Mother, Jewish Daughter is an LLC that I'm in with a few other people. And it's mostly theatrical producing, but also produces Monica's Mixing Bowl, and is generally an entertainment producing group. But usually it is theater. So like most of the projects that I'm working on, if there's something that comes up to produce, I produce it underneath the Chinese Mother LLC.
I love that, Chinese Mother, Jewish Daughter.
The name comes from the people that are in the LLC. It's my Chinese mother, my Jewish mother, and me. So it's an amalgam of all in it.
Elia, we're coming to the close of the program. Do you have other things you want to make sure we get in before we bid Stacey to go back to her busy schedule?
Yeah, no, the only thing I was going to say, Stacey, I mean, we really wish you a great deal of work and, luck on this, and it seems like it's going in the greatest directions. And we hope to see you all the way across to California, doing road trips. So this would be wonderful. The next project, are yours focused on children on your approach? Because
you mean for Monica's Mixing Bowl?
Yeah.
Yeah, Monica's Mixing Bowl is for, we're saying it's for families, and it is geared towards children. And the goal is kind of to demystify the differences in dietary needs of some kids, of families, and restrictions that some people place on themselves or live under, so everything from what it means to be gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, to what it means to keep kosher. And the idea is that it kind of, we say we want to make friends with food, but it doesn't, knowing that someone has a restriction placed on their diet for any reason, whether it is an allergy or whether it's a religious thing, there's no need to be afraid of that, and that to alienate someone because of it. and it's a show that will have a social message as well as like a more teaching geared message about food, and everything is solved through food.
When does that debut? Monica's Mixing Bowl.
We have a kind of proof of concept pilot that is online now.
Okay.
There's a very fun musical section in it that's a song that is a fantasy. And we're working on some new interstitials that have, it's another project where I'm sort of the book writer, and we'll be pulling together the scripts and have written scripts already for interstitials, which they'll be kind of like bite-sized episodes, 3 to 5 minutes in length. And we're planning on shooting them in December so that then we can take it and kind of pitch it to the world. We've revamped the concept since the original pilot to kind of be a little bit more specific and fun and colorful, and we're working on that right now in pre-production. So we're very...
Come back. You come back and tell us more, because I love the concept, too, of Monica's Mixing Bowl.
I would love to.
Would love you to come back and just shine the light on that as well. One other thing before Alaya will bid you adieu is if Rue likes younger men, I think he would love to be with you. Maybe she needs a boyfriend. Would you like a Cellini? He's still a little young yet, but who knows?
Is he a dachshund completely?
He's a dachshund, yeah. And I got him, he wasn't fully in a rescue, but his people bought him and then developed, the kids had allergies. So I don't know what would have happened next, but I was in the right spot, and so he's my newest.
Yeah, well, that's what people don't realize with rescues, is that it's not every rescue. Perhaps it is because of all the commercials that we see. That's like the dogs are neglected and they need love and attention and commitment, and they're all sick and they need help. But a lot of dogs that get surrendered to shelters or rescues are surrendered by families who decide they can't take care of them anymore or are no longer able to take care of them anymore for a wide variety of reasons. And it doesn't mean you're getting a used dog. Sometimes
I don't know if that's true in New York, but around, I'm a rescue. I used to be a foster mom for dogs, and if a dog is an owner surrender, they go to the euthanasia line much quicker, and that's real scary because people think they can put their dogs in a rescue, but most rescues, owner surrenders, are marked for euthanasia pretty darn quickly. I don't know if that's true in New York or not, but
I'm not sure what the statistics are in New York, but I know that they're striving towards no kill, but there is still a kill rate. So it's working towards getting those animals rehomed as fast as possible, and that's how you stop. That's why the Badass Brooklyn Animal Rescue does what they do. They pull from shelters that are high kill in order to alleviate the kill rate. And there are some shelters that have written them and said, thank you, you're making it so that we don't have to kill any dogs, which is great.
I love that. I love your work, and I am just, my world seems better because you're in it. So you are a blessing. You're a blessing. And I'll let Alaya go ahead and close the show.
Well, like I said, thank you. I know you're super busy. So, we really appreciate you coming on, and, we hope to have you on another time just to, in our little way, get you out there more. Maybe a little bit further beyond the tri-state area, which I'm sure you're getting out there without our help. You have wonderful work and wonderful projects, and you're really approaching the children, teaching the children that, life is not this, indispensable, that each life, whether it's a dog, cat, bird, or anything, is really important, and they need love. Mm-hmm. So keep it up. Keep up the great work, and I hope, just like Ann says, that you'll arrange time, and we'll discuss the other projects and have fun on the summer production. That's really, really exciting. Good luck, and I know I'm seeing you again.
Thank you.
These rising stars. Okay, thanks, Stacey. I'll leave it up to the close.
Yeah, thank you. And the Creating Calm Network, our mission is to inspire people to have a heart-centered and holistic lifestyle, and also for sustainable planet and rescue and food, and all of that is part of it. So our door is always open for you. Anytime you're doing a project, we would love to shine light on you and send it out through our social media as well. So hats off, many blessings, and go out and have a great day, Stacey. I think Ruth probably wants to walk now, right?
She's actually sleeping on the bed. She took herself and like went to go sleep on the big bed because she decided she would remove herself.
Take care. You're beautiful. Many blessings.
Again, take care, Stacey. Thanks a lot.